Okay.
Welcome back to Bikes, Burpees, and Backhands. This is your host, Dave Matthews. Today, I guess it had to come around. I'm glad that this young lady decided to do it. Her and her husband placed a ghost bike several years back for a gentleman up in Brazelton, Mr. David Fitzpatrick. It was during one of the worst 14-day segments that I think I've ever lived through, and I can only imagine the recipients and their families of these ghost bikes and what they went through. But for me and my family, who nearly living through it 8 years ago, for some reason, God gave me another chance, and I'm going to try and make sure that that doesn't go by the wayside as a unused opportunity. God doesn't give you, gives you plenty, but what you decide to do with them, to me, is up to each and every individual to make themselves and people around them better, or just let it pass by, and maybe he'll knock on your door again. And he has for me many a times in my life, and I am not letting this one go by. Today on Bikes, Burpees, and Backhands, I've got Michele Fitzpatrick Thomas. She's written a book dealing with the ordeal, the tragedy, however you want to phrase it, of losing her father, who was cycling in Brazelton, was hit from the rear. We'll go into those details, and if that's what we want to do later on. I've got Michele on the podcast with us, and also Jeremy. Jeremy was one of David's cycling friends, got him into cycling. And I want to say first and foremost, thank you, Michele, for being here.
Yes, thank you.
I know this is not an easy thing to talk about, but thank goodness for me, and hopefully a lot of our followers out there, you have put this into a Kindle version, a paperback version, and hopefully they can live and learn from it. Anything you want to start before I jump over to Jeremy?
I just thank you for having me. I thank you for bringing attention to this issue and all that you do, for cyclists and pedestrians, and to help make the world a safer place. You're a blessing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Jeremy, why don't you jump in real quick and tell us, I guess the history of you and David, and how y'all got started cycling, your safety concerns, things like that, and get our readers or our followers up to speed on David and his cycling endeavors.
Yeah, well, I was a road cyclist long before Dad was, and in a constant battle to struggle with his weight and health, that was something he brought up to me to maybe give a try, and it's not that I doubted his commitment to that, but we actually started off with a 7-speed cruiser bike to get him into it, and I can vividly remember helping him pick it out online, and then going to a bike shop in Athens and ordering it, and his excitement getting out on just in the neighborhood at that point. And he fell in love with it so quickly that within a couple of months, he upgraded to like a flat barred 700C wheeled hybrid bike. Sure. So that's when we actually started riding together on the road some. And I can very clearly remember a ride we did just outside of Athens on old 129 out there that paralleled the current 4-lane 129. And he was so upset because the gearing on that bike was geared to people that weren't necessarily interested in being a speed demon, and he couldn't keep up with me simply because he ran out of gears. He
Sure
couldn't keep up. And so before I knew it, he had ordered a genuine road bike with, it was the real deal. He was an Ultegra level road bike at that point, and he was off and running. So Dad loved to bargain, but he also loved to have cool stuff. So he would wait until he saw a clearance, and he'd buy City brand shoes.
Sure.
He found clearance in his size. Of course, from a safety standpoint, we were always aware that there's some inherent risk in being on a bicycle on the road, and both of us, and he kind of inherited this from me, and my philosophy was, be loud, be bright, be visible.
Sure.
He always rode with a super bright tail light. From time to time, depending on his finding the different ones that would seem to work, he would use a mirror. Obviously, you can't plan for everything.
Sure.
We know that clearly, but he loved it. I told Michele the other day when we were talking about it that he didn't dive headfirst into it. He climbed up on top of that high dive board and did a cannonball into cycling. He would text me and reference some obscure race in Europe that wasn't a big deal. Say, hey, did you see what so and so just did? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not a Grand Tour. I'm not watching that. So.
Yep.
So it was truly, we talk about our hobbies and things like that being passions, and it was truly a passion for him. Despite the tragic way his life ended, I know that the last few years of his life were drastically better, both from an enjoyment standpoint, but also from a health standpoint, because I can remember, from the time I was a little kid, that was the first athletic or fitness thing that ever stuck, and that was a good solid 5-6 years that from when he took it up until he was taken away from us. So
sure.
So it was, he loved it. He loved every minute of it.
Absolutely. I think a lot as we're chuckling about the races in Europe that are going on right now. Decatur has one of our own, Joey Roscoff, who's going to be riding in the Tour de France this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His team is not even racing right now. They're up in the Alps training, and it's absolutely true. Once you pick up that bicycle and you get a little bit into it, it is it's all encompassing. It really is. I was like, my wife says, why are you still riding? And I say, well, it's my psychology. It's my mental release also, not only physical, but mental, to where it's a good addiction. It really is. I hope that one day, Bike Friendly and Pass Them Like You Love Them and Georgia Bikes and Bike Law and all these associations, hopefully we can make some dents and pathways. I'm seeing people on scooters and people on these e-bikes now, which are coming. I don't think there's any way we can stop it.
Right.
I think we have to be a little more cautious, as a whole society's, awareness gets raised.
And I agree wholeheartedly with that. It's not just about those of us that jump in Lycra and go for our fun rides. I mean, perfect example. I live down in Southwest Atlanta, and although you occasionally sometimes see somebody who's on a road bike and out for recreation, I mean, I see tons of people on Walmart bikes, because that's the only way they have to get to the bus stop. That's the only way they have to get to the store. And they may not be wearing Lycra, and they may not be watching the tour on TV, but they're cyclists, and they're more importantly, they're human beings. And I think, that's their safety and their well-being is as important as anybody else's. So I'm with you that I would love to see a sea change in the way that people are viewed, that aren't necessarily in cars, that are sharing the road with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are the things that you and David would do? I'm just trying to get our listeners and followers and YouTubers to have a little empathy, sympathy,
right,
however you want to phrase it. Cyclists usually go a little bit above and beyond to be more safe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Dad had and he and I both generally had some of the same gear. So Dad would have, I don't even know if they make these anymore, but it was a Planet Bike tail light that had a huge strobe LED, and then several smaller LEDs. So I mean, it was the biggest and brightest that you could get at the time. So and in addition to that, everything would have reflective accents on it. He didn't ride it all black. It was always in bright colors and super visible. And he put reflective stickers on his helmet so that he would be as visible as possible. And of course, all that said, he didn't ride in the dark or anything like that. It wasn't an early morning sunrise kind of thing or a dusk ride or anything like that. And for the most part, always stuck to lightly traveled,
roads,
rural country roads.
Sure.
And when you talk about changing the philosophy of how motorists view not just cyclists, but people that are on foot too, just like everybody else, he and I both, when we were together and also separately, experienced people that would kind of swerve aggressively or honk at us or, sometimes throw bottles out the window, soda bottle, stuff like that. So, it's the attitude is that cyclists are typically expendable and not deserving of the use of the roads.
Sure, I agree. I totally agree. I'm just trying to think. I see. I do ride in the early morning. To me, I have a group right here in Decatur that rides very early. Where I'm up right now. This is about the only time of year where we get to do the whole ride in the daylight because it is daylight at like 6.
Right.
We start at 6. We're through by about 7:15, and it's around this east side of Atlanta kind of a ride. But we all have, if not one, maybe 2 or 3 rear lights that are flashing all the time. We get in a group. We always turn them on solid so that somebody following us in the group doesn't get blinded by that continually flashing light. But there's still a red light back there for a motorist who's coming up to see us. I have started riding since it wasn't an accident, my crash, and that's another thing that I really harp on a lot when I hear people say, oh, well, they were in an accident and this was I said, it's not an accident, it's a crash. An accident is two events that occur simultaneously that couldn't have been prevented. If you could try to get them together again, you never could. That's an accident. A crash could have been prevented. And in my 69 ghost bikes that I've done, I really, and the thing that really irritates me about a lot of my fallen friends is that these are people that have had drug or alcohol related driving problems, and we are not doing enough to get them off the road or get them rehab. If you want to say, let's get them rehab, okay, let's get them rehab. But let's get them off the road while they're rehabbing instead of letting them have a relapse. Right. What do you think about that?
Well, and that's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about and talking to friends and family about. And, it's not a matter of, so Bill Bowers is the name of the person that killed Dad.
Sure.
And it's not about Bill Bowers needed rehab in 2015. Bill Bowers needed rehab 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
He needed someone, whether it was friends and family or the government or somebody, to take his addiction seriously before he was set on the path that ended tragically on May 4th, 2015. I can't help but think if we had treated that as a genuine problem as opposed to a symptom that needs to be punished by jail time. I mean, sure, if somebody commits a crime, then they need to be punished for it. But nothing was ever done to get to the root cause of why he was committing crimes.
Right.
And if we as a society had taken that and would take that more seriously today and really treat that as a total spiritually and physically and you name it, and try to help people heal instead of just punishing them, with no thought for future behavior, I have to think maybe something would have been different.
Absolutely.
I think, absolutely there's a point at which a person who has been a habitual offender is a danger to society and no longer gets to have the rights to be able to have the freedoms and walk around amongst us the way that we would expect. But before somebody gets to that point, we need to address all the issues, not just the criminal behavior, to try to prevent tragedies and the types of situations that we're in now.
Right. Jeremy, you got anything else you want to add before I kind of get through this cycling part of the segment and get into Michelle's book?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add one other thing, and this
Sure.
is it's anecdotal. I don't have evidence for this, but I think one of the biggest changes, and it's an education, it's an awareness thing, not for the public at large, but for specifically for law enforcement. You know, we have a pretty good 3-foot rule here in Georgia for passing cyclists, and you know, I would not be surprised to hear that you ride with a GoPro, for example. I know a lot of cyclists that do. But if you were to present video evidence of a car passing you aggressively to a law enforcement agency, particularly if you weren't on some deserted road, would you be taken seriously? You know, we have laws for seatbelt use because they save lives, and they're aggressively enforced because they save lives. We have a 3-foot law because it saves lives for cyclists and it saves lives for pedestrians. And if we don't aggressively enforce it, it's useless. And I get the sense that that's not where we are. And that's not necessarily a public awareness campaign. It's a law enforcement awareness campaign to take that infraction seriously.
Absolutely. I sense my crash did have, I do now ride what's called a Fly 6 and a Fly 12, which is a company out of Australia called Cyclique. I ride with it's a front and rear. They both have lights on them. The rear one is a red flashing. You can change the modes. Front is a white solid, and you can also have it flashing, but they both have a HD video camera that runs every time you turn it on. And I don't get on my bike unless I turn both of them on. I have presented, and that will be case in point, and I'm using my YouTube channel to also bring this up, you know, as awareness. Is I bring up a lot of cases where motorists go by me and my little group, 2 or 3 of us sometimes, and they'll fly by us, and literally 150 yards up the road, we meet at the red light. And then they screech off from the red light, and guess what happens in the next red light? Here we come again. And I'm like, where are you going? Traffic and red lights in really almost any city, unless you have miles of unobstructed, you know, roadway like a highway, you're not going to get there more than a minute faster than, especially in a 7 or 8 mile ride. I got one of my friends that he cycles in from Decatur to CNN every day, and he sees people, and sometimes he even beats a motorist that is going down there the same place at the same time.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of, he just scurries along with the traffic and doesn't cause a ruckus. He's not in a hurry. He gets good exercise. He gets out of the car, and his psychology is met. You know, his mental readiness for the day is met, and he's ready to go. And I hope somewhere sooner than later, these videos can, at least the police can start saying, hey, you know, Mr. X or Mrs. X, you need to slow down. We've got video on you. At least a warning go out to them, and that's a paper trail. So that, here we go again, back to these people that are chronic abusers. If you give them a paper trail, and then when they do commit something a little more serious, all of a sudden, all that paper trail comes up, and it's not your first offense. It's your 10th. And that might curb people from continually doing it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm going to end this portion of the podcast and the recording because it's about to hit me. And then I am, for the people watching the live feed, I am going to pick back up with Michele, and we're going to discuss the book, Through Deep Waters. Jeremy, I appreciate your time and effort, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, and I hope life treats you well. And one day I will ride with David again. Trust me.
Yep.
I plan on seeing that day. Trust me.
Yep.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks,
Michele, I'll be right back, Michele.
Okay.
All right. I'm back with Michele Fitzpatrick Thomas, the author of Through Deep Waters. She chronicles, I guess, or writes her travels down a, to me, it's not an unfathomable part of life. I nearly went down it. Well, I've been down it with my wife and 2 daughters. They unbelievably helped me. We talk a lot. They help me with everything that I have done with Bike Friendly Atlanta. I think this is my way. When Paul Taylor killed right here about a mile from my house in 2012, I sensed a sense of, I guess, compassion that my mother had instilled in me from a young age to help anybody and those who need help and seem like they don't get help. And at that point in time, Mr. Taylor being almost identical age as me and having two daughters about the same age as mine, I that morning came back from a bike ride to find out that he had been hit. He wasn't one of my friends, just another cyclist, just like all 69 of these bicycles that I put out. And something in my heart said, this just isn't right, the way society is handling this. To take out in most cases, not always, but in most cases, it's at one of the heads of household, the mother or father, to take away, even that is it's got to stop. And then you throw in all the complications of one, income, two, another parent that helps you raise your sons and daughters. You know, you can't buy a babysitter that will fill the need of a parent. It just doesn't work that way. And it is just, hard is the biggest, grossest understatement you could ever put on that situation. Hard is way too easy of a word. I want to thank you, Michele, for being here. Any first thoughts?
I just appreciate you having me on. Thank you for bringing attention to this issue, and it's a necessary thing to bring up, and we need to keep working to make people safer. So I thank you for all that you're doing. Well,
thank you. I sometimes wonder what more can I do? I am not I'm not a government funded. I'm literally a self-supported, the gracious donors. And I've had people, I run, that's like the title of the podcast, Bikes, Burpees, and Backhands. I run a little pickleball group at the Decatur Family YMCA. And I was sitting there one day, and people ask me all the time. I don't know if you can see it. I'm wearing one of my Ride of Silence T-shirts. This is from our 5th anniversary that we just had on May 15th here in Decatur, the Ride of Silence. And actually, I think I have one of David's pictures up there on the line. If you go look at the Ride of Silence video we just put out, I didn't and still am bothered by how we, handle these society issues, whether it's drunk driving, whether it's now distracted driving, whether it's speeding. We have to find a way to get at those road issues. The thing that, I wanted to find out from you, and I guess to preempt this, and I'll turn it all over to you after this. I've had this happen several times. Something popped up. I have had on several of my trips incidents that I guess the only way that I could put them they were God sent. When I came out to place David's ghost bike, it was late in the evening. Like I said before, back when I talked with Jeremy, I came out, me, my son-in-law, and it had to be 10, 11 o'clock at night, right there on Brazelton Highway. There's a little strip mall on the right, probably about, I don't know, what is that, a half mile from now where David's ghost bike sits, where the crash site was. And, most of the time when I get out to places like that, I don't see, especially 11 o'clock at night. I mean, people go, why do you go that late? And I go, well, I don't make any money from doing this. I don't charge for my time. I willingly give my time. The nonprofit is basically just buys T-shirts so I can print them. I don't charge to print them. I want to get the word out that this place has got to get safer. And if what I leave this earth doing, then I think I've done more than I could have done. And I won't stop till I'll keep trying. But anyway, I'm out there on this corner with Mike, my son-in-law, and got this white bike in the back of my car, and we're looking around, and there's nobody at the strip mall. It's closed. Like most strip malls, they probably close at 9 or 10, and there's not a car in the lot. And we're just kind of looking around. I said, well, Mike, I said, how about there's a phone pole on the corner. I said, I know the DOT will probably come and get it, but at least we've done our heartfelt duty. We left a ghost bike. And he says, well, no, let's back it up a little bit. And we discussed it. We stayed there for like 10 or 15 minutes. And lo and behold, a car comes up behind us. And at 11 o'clock at night, my dad always raised me that there's only two, and this is back in the old days, but he said there's only two kind of people out after midnight. That's paper boys and policemen. And I was like, well, this ain't no paper boy, Mike. This ain't no policeman. We may not be facing some good things here. And he goes, well, let's just sit and wait. So anyway, we're sitting there, and this gentleman gets out of the car, and he walks up, and I said, yes, sir. And he goes, you wouldn't happen to be sitting here looking for the crash site, would you?
Wow.
And I said, my heart was like out to here. My heart was beating so big, I'm thinking, hope he don't go to his back pocket or he don't go behind his back. If he does that, I'm popping this clutch and getting out of this joint. And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he goes, it happened just up the road a little bit. And I said, yes, sir, we're looking for a place to put his ghost bike. And he didn't know what a ghost bike was. And I said, yeah, I built ghost bikes. I think David's was about number 54, I believe. And I said, I'm just looking for a place that I don't think the DOT will get it, and a place that it will be seen so that it can raise awareness that we can get along better, and somebody died here, and have a little compassion for everybody on the road. And he says, well, I own that automobile maintenance shop right there across the street, and it's got a fence around it, and you can chain it to that fence, and it will stay there as long as you want it.
Wow.
And I said, mister, I don't know who sent you down here at 11:30 on this night.
It's like an angel.
You're just another angel walking around this place, giving me a place to rest this bike for a fallen soul that needs to raise awareness for his cause. And that's where we put it when before I talked to y'all, and we got that ride and everything, and we finally moved it down to its final resting place.
Right.
I've had that happen about half a dozen times with me or my daughters or my son-in-law, and we just sit with our jaws on the ground sometimes going, what I'm doing is right. And maybe the rest of society will catch up one day to realize that this is a big, serious problem. And mentally for families, physically for even physically, because your mental does affect your physical. So from that, I'm going to turn it over to you. What does your family, obviously before the crash, it was, everything was rolling smoothly. Like my wife has told me several times, that phone call she got from the paramedics, they were taking me to the hospital, was not the phone call you want to get.
The worst call of her life, probably.
Absolutely. She says, don't have that number pop up again, or I'm just going to walk out. I said,
right.
I got it, honey. I got it. How does your family feel? I know I've talked with Jeremy a little bit about his cycling past and post. What are your family's thoughts? Pre-crash and after?
Well, it's interesting. I knew that Dad loved cycling, and I would watch his rides sometimes. He would send me a link, and I would watch his ride. But I didn't realize the level of passion that he had for it until really that I've talked with Jeremy about it, because Jeremy was the one that, cycled with him, and it was their hobby that they did together. But the issue has become so much clearer, since Dad was killed. And, it's changed our lives completely since he was taken from us. And we have such a better understanding of the cycling community and the safety issues that you guys face, day in and day out. And the disregard that so many people have for cyclists and pedestrians, runners, and it's a big issue that needs to be addressed. People's hearts need to be changed, and we need to make the roads safer for everybody.
Agree totally. I mean, as I'm sitting here doing, I thought I would never do. My history with helping the special needs population goes way back. My mother was a special ed teacher, so I helped with Special Olympics from the time I was about 11, 12 years old. I would always go down and help on the fields with my mom. And I thought I would never do a ghost wheelchair until about a month and a half ago. I did one down in Columbus.
I saw that. That was amazing.
I still have questions. I have questions about literally every crash that I happen to leave a ghost bike for, or a ghost wheelchair. And now out in the back of my condo, I'm doing a ghost scooter. Had a gentleman about 2 weeks ago in downtown Atlanta, got his life taken. And, I know that not all of these crashes are the automobile's fault. But like I always bring up, there's not but one entity in all these crashes that kills, and that is a car. Right. And I'm not saying that they're always at fault. They're not. I know cyclists that blow through stop signs and red lights, and they can try to justify it all they want to. It ain't right. And same with scooters. And I see pedestrians walking across crosswalks, didn't hit the button to cross the crosswalk, and yet got earbuds in their ears and got their hand down there texting or reading a book while they're walking. And I'm like, I don't think the world revolves around you. I think exactly to the world that's out there. I think penalties, they only go so far if you've got a track record, like I said, with drunk driving or distracted driving. I drive to Beaufort, almost up there where y'all are, every day to work, and I put a camera on my passenger window, shooting like straight out the side, like out to the right, and I guarantee you, I would say three. I'd probably say 2 to 3 out of 5 cars have somebody on the phone in the driver's seat.
Right. Still. Yes, after this law.
And I'm like, we got a law. We've had a law since, the middle, like the start of the year, and we think nothing of it. It's almost like the speed limit. You go 70 on 85 going up to Brazelton, but 70, but I see people doing 80, 85, 90, and I'm like, I guarantee you they get on side streets, and if the side street is 35, they ain't going 35. They're going 45, 50, 55 miles an hour. And that's, how we as a society start to curb that, I don't know, because speed does kill. You take a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone and make people go 35, people survive a 35-mile-an-hour crash with a bicycle or pedestrian. 45, 50, you don't. And like Paul Taylor, they estimated the guy's speed when he hit Paul Taylor was going 54 miles an hour in a 35.
Wow.
He didn't get following too close ticket. I'm like, you hit him from the rear end. If I hit somebody in a car from the rear end, it's my ticket. It's automatic, not even a question. He didn't get a ticket for that. And, it was his second. He had 2 DUIs. A month later, he got his third. And I'm like, and this is not uncommon. This happened like in David's drivers. It's just, our laws are there. We just ain't doing a good enough job enforcing them.
Right, exactly.
So, I don't know, hopefully like Jeremy says, I travel with a Fly 6 and a Fly 12 on the front and back of my bike. I make videos occasionally and put them on my YouTube channel so that if people go out there and they want to commit an offense, there is a YouTube video of them, and I'll even put their tag number in it. So all they got to go do is search a tag number, and it's there. At some point in time, hopefully, when I hear police officers saying they have to wear those little chest cameras,
right?
Sometime our society is going to have to say, well, if a policeman can wear it and we can use that as evidence, Why can't we take evidence of a cyclist who has a front and rear video? You see them coming, you see them going, and and like on the Fly 12, the front camera, they have a 3-foot overlay, like a red line that you can impose on there, and it tells you exactly from the center of the bike where 3 feet is. You can see that car is inside that zone. And so I'm like, if the police officer would start issuing some warnings, hey, just send it to them. I don't care. If you send it to them, at least they have notice, and there's a paper trail that you're an aggressive driver.
They know they're being watched.
They're being watched a little more carefully, and now with a paper trail, give them 2 or 3 chances, but after the 3rd warning, I'm sorry, this is going to be a ticket, an aggressive driving ticket, which let's give them X amount of points. And, if that was a domino down the road, like in David's case, that gentleman had a track record that was bigger than a quarter-mile track.
Oh, it was, decades long. Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm like, we should have hit this guy after 3 somewhere else. And then somewhere else, he should have been, okay, you're done.
Right.
Me and David would be riding right now. And that I don't get how we let people just keep offending. It drives me crazy. But hopefully, somewhere we can get that curbed.
It's interesting. I'm teaching my oldest child how to drive right now, which is kind of terrifying. But we could easily, the state of Georgia, other states could easily, make cycling safety more of a priority in the driver training, courses and things like that. There are so many things that we could do to make people more aware of this issue.
Yeah, I think especially, I don't know how in depth. I mean, I haven't taken a real not a driver's test, but like the written test and stuff. I know they have simulators and stuff, and why not on a simulator put a cyclist going down the road and see if the kid or the tester, if they move over the 3 foot and give 3 feet of clearance, and if you don't, have it pop up, didn't allow 3 feet of clearance. Well, that instills that in there. I saw something the other day that said something like, when you're teaching when you're going down the road with your kids being anybody under probably 14, all the way down, us as parents are always trying to find something to occupy their time. Well, they said, count the cyclists that are on the road while you're going. And if you want to play a game, like we used to play a game when I was in college, you would point out dogs. You would count dogs. You're going down through these rural towns. You see a bunch of them, but we would play like tennis. So you played up to 6, and whoever won got to 6 won the set. And it made time pass. Well, do the same. Bring up, oh, there's a cyclist. Oh, there's a scooter. There's a pedestrian. So that when you do go learn to drive, you're used to pointing those and seeing those things. You're looking for those things because they are parts of the road that people use, and we have to do it safely.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Let's get into the entree on the plate. To me, we got to talk about the feelings. I just had one of my friends not wake up about a week and a half ago. He was about my age, and so I'm seeing this around me, and I get up every morning to go for my bike ride, and I see a moon sometimes when it's dark, or I see a sunrise when I'm coming back in. The first thing I do is I reach up and I just say, thank you, God, and see what I can do today to make this place a little bit better.
Right.
In my friends' honor, all my friends. Tell me how you're dealing with the feelings. I'm sure the first week it's just a moment of stunnedness.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
You're in limbo. Literally the whole family is just like jaw on the ground. I just hope I don't trip over my face as I walk and try to continue life. But you kind of wish you just reach over on the computer screen and hit pause and kind of, okay, let me back up for a week and let me let this settle in, because it just doesn't stop. You gotta.
Right. What's hard is that you go through something like this and everybody else moves on after the first week or two, and you're like, how do I live?
Sure.
I don't, we all had to kind of learn how to live again because Dad was such a huge part of our lives. And I mean, just a few examples. We were a part of his church. And so my kids, he was their pastor their whole lives. We had to shut down the church because we didn't, couldn't find another pastor. So, we're changing churches. He taught at our homeschool academy. So we're all suddenly without a teacher. He taught my oldest child, and they were so close. I mean, I can't describe what a huge part of our lives that he was. And so, yeah, I mean, you're in shock probably for the first, I don't know, several months or a year, honestly. And then it kind of hits you. I mean, it still hits me sometimes. We're 4 years out now. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I need to call Dad and tell him so-and-so. And then, oh, I can't call him, he's gone. And so it's a process of, going through the day to day and just trying to figure out how to live without him. And it's not easy. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Correct.
So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that I've always done when, I've had my brother pass away about 5 years ago. He was about to retire, and he just died. And I said, it was kind of sad. I was getting ready to post a report from the Ride of Silence, which happened about a little over a month ago, and post a video and everything. And so I wanted to let everybody know what the date the next year's ride was on, just so they go ahead and put it in their calendars and stuff. And it falls on my brother's birthday next year. And I sat there, you just sit and you just kind of go, because at one point in time, me and him wanted to cycle. We lived in Denver together for about 3 years. And at one point we were thinking about, we called it credit card touring, where you get on a bike, you have a credit card in your back pocket, you have maybe a couple of changes of clothes in a small bag, but you go from hotel to hotel, and you're going to stop wherever you want to stop and put on a credit card. And we were going to cycle from Denver to Columbus, Georgia, where we're from, and Mom and Dad lived. And we never got around to doing that, but every time now I see his birthday come up, it reminds me of my brother and how instrumental he was. And he didn't think he was giving me examples, kind of like David did, but he wasn't my dad, but he was a very inspirational person. He was 5 years older than me, so it was a big gap there. So I always watched, whether he knew it, I was watching him like a hawk. And so it's kind of like you say now, every time I see a birthday or, now with Bike Friendly, I've got a calendar that's got all of my fallen friends' anniversary dates on it. And I get one almost every day that pops up. And I literally sit for 5 minutes almost every day and just think about the people that I've seen and the things I've heard about them and the things that the impact they had on this planet. Frank Gwynn was a firefighter. I'm just going, and we're letting people that drive drunk have multiple offenses, and we can't take care of firefighters and pastors and, little kids on bicycles going down the sidewalk to get hit. I'm just like, we're missing the big points here, Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the statistics that I found when I was writing the book is that the average drunk driver drives drunk over 80 times before their first arrest. So
wow.
there are people out there all the time who are driving intoxicated. And, that's a major problem in our society. I think, I think they're trying to medicate themselves because a lot of times they're miserable. They're lonely and they're, depressed, and who knows what's going on in different lives, but they're turning to these substances instead of to God. I think is the only one who could fill that hole in their lives. But it's scary to think about how many people that you meet day to day that are drunk or high or whatever. And so it's amazing that more crashes don't happen,
Yeah, it begs the question. It was kind of interesting. I had one of my former students who was an Air Force pilot with the Air Force Reserves back a few years back, and he flew over to back then he was flying C-5s into Baghdad, and he'd get off base there, and he was up in Germany one time, and he's driving down the road, and sees the lights in the back of the window, and he's getting pulled over, and the officer pulled him over, and he says, he told him, hey, I'm in the Air Force, I'm a pilot, thinking maybe he'll give me a warning, yeah. And the officer said, we thank you guys for doing all you do around here and bringing supplies in, and la 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 la. And then he looked at him and he goes, but you were going 11 miles an hour over the speed limit, and your ticket is X amount of dollars. And he pulled out his wallet and he goes, do you want to pay me cash, check, or do you want to spend it on a credit card?
Oh my goodness.
Or do you want to go to court in about 3 weeks and fight it there? And he's like, I ain't gonna show up in 3 weeks. There ain't no way. And he goes, I guess you just have to swipe my credit card. And I was like, if you hit people in the pocketbook right there, and
right when it happens,
all of a sudden you'd be able to tell if they were drunk or not. You'd be able, a lot of things you can find out when you've got a conversation about money. And if you don't have the fare, guess what? You just get impounded, and we'll see you down at the county jail. Well, now we can figure things out. So it was interesting how we see and we hear about Europe, and how I know the United Kingdom from watching. I follow some blog spots over there and some stuff on Facebook. It is not the dream world to cycle either. There are fatalities happening over there like there is everywhere. I'm not so sure when our society is really going to look at these things and say, not only in cycling, we have a driving problem, serious driving problem. I mean, I go down the road, I see people. I was coming from the Y, which is only 2 miles from my house, and I've got a front and rear video camera on my car. See,
oh wow, you're covered.
I don't play, girl. And this guy's coming across. It's a 4-lane road with a turn lane in the middle, and he's in the turn lane coming at me, and the car in front of me slows down to let him turn, and we think he's going to turn over here into this business, and he turns, and he gets literally in the lane that we're both in. We're in the far right lane, and he continues to make a U-turn. And he's like now going to get in front of that car that's in front of me. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. Well, not only does he do that, he button hooks it on back around and gets in that left lane to the left of me. I said, okay, this is probably going to get more interesting. I better stay back and stay way out of his way. Well, lo and behold, you go straight about 15, 20 yards. There's a red light, and you can take a right-hand turn or you can go straight. And the right lane is the only right-hand turn lane there is. The left one is straight. Well, we get to that red light, and what does he do? He jumps my lane of traffic to take a right. And so he is 2 cars in front of me, and I got all this on video. He goes up, and I said, okay, well, I was taking a right because that's headed toward my house. I'm going to stay back. I'm going to be safe. And I get up there, and I put on my left blinker. The road I'm turned on to now is a 4-lane road, but there's no turn lane. And I put on my blinker to get in the left lane, and he's in the right lane. And I'm like, I'm just going to watch this guy real closely. I just don't want him to left hook me and turn right into me. Well, I got by him in my rear view video camera, picked him up, making another U-turn to go back where he just came from.
Oh my word!
And I'm just sitting there going, and motorists think that us cyclists are bad.
Right. Exactly.
I was just like, that blows me away. But we somehow, and I get it about Uncle Sam, not wanting, you don't want to be watched all the time. I get it. I do, but what you
got to have a balance though, You got
to have a balance. You have to be able to give up, all these people and politicians and everybody talking about finding a common ground between laws. But let me tell you, we have some awesome laws. We really do. We are just bending them so far. If this says 35 mile an hour, we got right here at Decatur YMCA. I speak about that place all the time because I go by there all the time. So my wife works. They used to have there's a red light there that had cameras on it. And if you ran it, it got so bad. If you ran it, it would send you a ticket in the mail. And they shut that thing down. They said it was so expensive, la, la, la. I said, let me tell you something. We can shoot pictures back from Saturn.
Exactly.
And we can't put a camera on a red light to get your tag number that when you run it, you get a ticket. I said, I think the problem is that our politicians want to run it and get away with it, but they don't want us to do it. I said, now we find the root of the problem. We don't want everybody in the same bubble. We got some special people and we got some not so or regular people. Wrong. We all under the same umbrella. We got to get this thing right.
Yes.
So,
and we want freedom. We want our freedom, but freedom only works if we are a moral people. You can't just let people do what they want to do, because obviously they kill people and they steal and all that kind of thing. So if we're not moral, the freedom is not going to work. So we have to have laws. We have to enforce those laws. We have to make sure that people do what they are supposed to do.
How long? Like you said, it was probably a couple months before the numbness kind of wore off. And you finally, I remember when my father, I took care of my father. He had dementia his last 5 years. And he was in a retirement home here not too far from me. So we would go over there almost every day, to spend time with him and stuff. But I remember when he passed, and even the last 5 years, I was doing all of his bills and stuff online and taking care of his bills and stuff for him. It became a monstrous amount of paperwork to just, and to do it under that kind of a pretense when your jaw is halfway between your legs and you just wonder, is this really what life is supposed to throw me? I tell people all the time, they first thing they ask me about is, why are you out doing ghost bikes about the dark side of cycling? And I said, because it's not getting any better. If we weren't having this many people get killed by cars on bicycles or scooters or wheelchairs, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. It wouldn't be a problem. As sad and as bad as Georgia is, Florida is worse, and California is even worse. I had one of my friends in California, in Oxnard. I met him 2 years ago when I went out to visit my mother-in-law, and he had his 8-year-old son taken by a truck that backed up over him while he went in to use a restroom in their cul-de-sac. And when he came out, his son was up under the truck. And he does ghost bikes now as a way to just cope. And I guess that's probably what I do, is to help me cope with what I've been through, but also when I see these other cyclists going down. And also, like I said, I did a wheelchair and I'm doing a scooter. Our society is not grabbing this. And they look at me like, well, you're only exposing the dark side of cycling. You're going to make our sport worse. Don't you like cycling? I love cycling. I got back on my bike 8 days after I got hit head on.
Wow.
And my wife looked at me like, you've lost your mind. And my daughters looked at her. My daughters looked at her and said, he's a much happier person when he's on the bike. It's like I told Jeremy, it's my psychology. It's my release to face the day. I know I need to pay attention when I'm on the bike. I know it's, a pothole away from having a crash. But, these automobiles are even, they're 50 times worse than a pothole. Trust me, I know.
Absolutely.
And so
Jeremy made a good point when we were talking the other day. Some European countries have, sidewalks or bike paths, bike lanes everywhere. And, we're the richest nation in the world. We could, if we got rid of some of the waste that we, pay for as a nation, we could easily afford to do bike paths, pedestrian paths, whatever, to make things safer. That obviously wouldn't prevent every crash. It wouldn't have prevented Dad's because the guy went way off the road, but it would save a lot of lives. We just have to prioritize and and that's not where we are as a nation at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we as a nation, we as a state, as a community, you keep going up from there. I think we all accept driving as the only mode of getting A to B, and it's not. I see it every day when I go up into Decatur or do my group ride. I pass people I order all the time with the funds that people donate to Bike Friendly. I buy some inexpensive but good lights, and I carry one in my back pocket. And if I see somebody going down the road, I have one. I did a video on that one the other day. I haven't posted it yet, where I go down this road and I passed a cyclist, and I barely saw him on my bicycle. I know in a car you wouldn't have seen him because you got windshield and everything else. And
right.
I want to post that, and at the start of the video go, tell me what you see. And then at the end of the video, say, did you see the cyclist with no light? Cyclists should wear flashing lights all the time. And, so that also hopefully cyclists can see that you don't show up. You need to be visible. If it's not with bright clothing, you need something flashing on the front of that bike day and night.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Here we go again. I'm coming down from Beaufort every day, and I see cars at night that won't have their rear lights on, the red lights, which I call them driving lights. But they say it's because their lights are automatic. Well, your automatic, you get the little driving lights on the front, it doesn't turn on your back light. So you can be a black car coming down 85 at 70 miles an hour, and somebody can come up behind you and literally hit you and not see you because you're in a dark car with no lights on the back. And, I think our automobile makers should have a say in that also, because that's part of it. You need to be visible too. So,
right, absolutely.
Talk to me about, my mother was and I am too. I am a Christian. I make my mistakes. God has taken me down a lot of roads. Yeah, absolutely. I sit and, sometimes I say I'm talking to my fallen riders. I know who they are. I know, it's kind of funny. I was at the Y, walked in after about, I don't know, it's been a couple of years now. And I wear people now ask me all the time, and all of you, I see Kimberly Gwynn's over here. This might be the only time you'll ever see me in a white t-shirt. I wear Optic Yellow all the time. All the time. I probably got 40 Optic Yellow t-shirts, and
oh my goodness.
And my cycling kits from Bike Friendly are yellow also. So, people go, well, what, you trying to be seen? I go, yeah, I made the mistake once. I was wearing white on that day. And
oh my goodness.
So, but I was at the Y with my pickleball group, and, I go there during the school year. We're there Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And there's most of the people are, I would say, 40 and up. I say senior citizens or a little younger senior citizens, I guess you could say. And a gentleman walks up to me and he hands me an envelope. And I said, well, Mr. Topple, it's not my birthday. That's the only reason people give me envelopes is somebody close to me will say happy birthday or something. And he just looked at me and he goes, sometimes in life, you see somebody with so much passion that it just oozes out of their pores every day. And I said, well, maybe I'm in trouble. Maybe I've mixed feelings or something. And he goes, no. He goes, I know what you do, and I know how much it means to you. And he says, this is just my way of saying keep doing what you're doing, because I've seen passion before, and it was a large check donated to Bike Friendly Atlanta. And I just looked at him, and I sat down and cried, really. And here we go again. You never know where it's coming from. You have to trust that what you're doing, if you're doing the right thing, it will be shown to you. God has told us that over and over again.
Yes, he has. And I used to work for Larry Burkett, who was a financial teacher. He had a radio show, and he would say, where God guides, he provides. So, he is obviously guiding you and providing, for what you're doing. So that's
Sure. Yeah. It's, I sit and I think, I ride with, there's a group here in Atlanta. We have a road here that goes from Decatur into downtown Atlanta. It's called DeKalb Avenue. And the politicians have been, I guess, debating. They've been debating for 10 years what to do with DeKalb Avenue. And DeKalb Avenue is, and will always be, and as long as it's a road, right now it's not, it is a road that is very accessible to cyclists to go from Decatur to Atlanta, downtown. I mean, literally the CNN Center, that whole Metroplex right there with the Georgia Dome and everything. The Mercedes-Benz and everything. You could bicycle there in literally 20 minutes.
wow.
And it's not a hilly course. It's nice, and it's got a few little rolling hills, but your momentum will almost go over every one of those little bumps. And it is so pothole ridden that my daughter had a flat tire on it from hitting one of those potholes about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
So you can imagine what a bicycle would do on it.
Yes.
I mean, we would fall in and probably go head over the handlebars.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're still debating over whether to, make it a complete street, and I understand it. I'm with Georgia Bikes. I'm with Atlanta Bicycle Coalition. I wish we could get a complete street where we could have a bike lane on both sides, protected, then 2 lanes of traffic with a turn lane at each red light, to get traffic flowing. But if that causes us to wait another 5 years, I say pave it right now and just throw some lines down. And believe me, cyclists
It'll be safer than it is. Yeah.
Cyclists will take over that road if you put some new pavement down. Right now, it is the worst. Like I said, it's terrible for cars. It's just catastrophic. Cyclists don't even go down it. And
it's crazy.
I see things like that, and I just, I understand debating and not wasting money, but to not put down asphalt when the road obviously needs
obviously a safety issue.
It's a safety issue for anything that's on that road, and I just wish that our politicians would stop debating, or waiting for their term to be up and put it on to somebody else. Do what's right at the day, at the time. And if it proves to be wrong, okay, we make mistakes, but at least make mistakes trying something good. Doing something to solve a problem instead of just sitting on it, letting it keep getting worse and worse and worse. Kind of like speeding, kind of like drunk driving. We're sitting on them going, well, we need to reform. Yeah, let's go. Let's
do it. Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't believe the numbers of drug and alcohol cases that we witnessed when we were going to the hearings and things for Dad's, case. I mean, just one after the other, people who were dismissed or put on probation or whatever, because of drug and alcohol offenses, and nothing was being done to truly make it better.
Address
it was
the
just
issue.
putting a Band-Aid on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that we as advocacy groups, I don't know. It's like I heard somebody, one of the commenters on the Bike Friendly fan page the other day said, sometimes what you have to do. I did see where the gentleman here in Atlanta, there was a guy named Greg Giamani who was tracked down by a gentleman. There was a road rage incident. Something happened between the cyclist and the car, the driver. The driver went down, he turned around, came back, and then he turned around again to come back, and he ran over the guy. And a home security camera caught it on video. And they caught the guy like 4 days later. He had covered up it was like a Cherokee Durango or something. It was a red color car anyway. He had covered it up and was hoping it would kind of pass, he'd get away with. Well, he was supposed to serve like 15 years, I think, and he's now trying to be released on a work program after like 4 years. And people are like, this guy commented, you've got to almost band together, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the group MAD. I said maybe we should get together a group called CAD, Citizens Against Distracted Driving, or whatever we want it to stand for. And we need to start showing up in these courtrooms, showing people that it does matter. These people that commit these heinous crimes of running over a pedestrian, a cyclist, or even just committing road rage against somebody else, can't be tolerated. This is not your way to solve your issue. And, you know, we're just kind of sitting back going, oh, well, they won't do it again. And I'm like, it don't work that way.
Right.
If you haven't looked at the records, it don't work that way. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
What out of the book can you point people to? I read the book literally, and I can tell you honestly, I'm not a big reader. But when I pick up a book, usually it's because I have a vested interest in it. I learned by watching from a gentleman who actually taught you about, not about how to play tennis. He used tennis as his mode to teach, but it was about observing and watching and learning with your visual motor muscle memory. And that's how I taught myself to play tennis. Anytime somebody does something like, in this case, you wrote this book. I read his book many decades ago. I picked your book up and went at it, and I don't think I put it down but once in about a 2-day period, and it was only because I had to go to work.
Thank you.
What out of the book, you know, I can say God, and you're going to probably say ditto. But when I see people, and it is 98% of the time the other side of the population. I hate to say that, it is. The other side of the population is a group of people that have not come this close to this side of society where Kim is, where you are, where Paul Taylor's wife, Barbara Taylor's at. It's easy for people to say time will heal. Because, you know, my brother was taken, and my mother was taken the day that she retired. And I thought, man, somebody deserved to have a retirement. You know, it's David, or it's my mom who spent 27 years with special needs kids. You know, all that paperwork that you do, and to help these kids, some of them got jobs. And I was just like, wow, you're a whole lot more than a mom. You're doing some miracle stuff with these kids that are special needs that, well, that doesn't mean they can't learn. They're just very slow. And you have to just keep re-giving it to them over and over. And I was like, wow. So I said, hey, look what you did with me. Something happened right, I guess. You got a lot of patience with me, I guess. But I hate hearing people and society say that time will always heal, that in time you will forget, because I literally hold back my anger and my rage, if I have any. It's a tough one, because I know from coming that close to it and seeing the faces and watching my fallen friends' families that I learned to follow on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and what they post, I read between the lines very well. I've always learned to be that way. And I also know when not to say something, you know, and when to say something. I take my time in saying things. But what do you say to those people that think that it's just a time thing?
I would say you haven't been through it. You don't know that if you think that it's going to get better over time. I mean, you know, the immediate raw, you know, festering pain gets better after a while, but it's not something that you get over ever. It's something that you work through time. But that person that you lost tragically, or even not tragically, they're always that, you know, part of your life, and it's not like you're going to forget them. It's not like you're going to get over them, or it's just, I mean, God can heal our hearts, but you're always going to be missing that person, always,
Sure.
until, we meet them again in heaven. And that's the only hope, that
Right.
that anybody has is being with them again in heaven. And so that's what I cling to and what I look forward to, honestly, very much look forward to being in heaven again with Dad, with others who have,
Sure.
gone before me too. And so grief is not, it's not something that I would wish on anybody. And it's tough, but it's one of those things that unless you've been through it, you don't really understand, and you don't really know what to say to somebody who's grieving.
Sure. What, for those that are out there that, sadly have friends that will go through this,
Mm-hmm.
what would you recommend? Because I know I've seen people fall over their feet over what to say.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say, I'm sorry. You want to say, a person coming up that hasn't lived through it, a person coming up that, doesn't understand the weight of what,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to have my mother and father die, those are two hard things. My brother was even harder. Something like this is hard. Like I said, hard is such an understatement. It's scary. What do you recommend people? Do you tell them just to say, I'm sorry?
I mean, there's really not a whole lot you could say that really would make it better. I mean, I could tell you some things that don't help, some things not to say, like, God needed them more than you did. That's not true.
Yeah.
But just be there, just be there, just love it, love them, listen, because they need to talk. We need to talk about our loved one that we're missing.
Right.
We don't want to stuff it and forget about them, and we want other people to talk about them. So many people are afraid to bring them up, because they think, well, I don't want to hurt them. But we want people to remember him.
Sure.
We want people to talk about him and to ask how we're doing, and just be there. Just be there. Spend time with us, listen, because there are days that are harder than others, and
Sure.
we need somebody to be there for us.
Sure. Would and I've thought about this. I've got a closed Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
that is basically 98% fallen friends, family members.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that would help? To have a group where you could just say, whatever. Hey, this day was a bunch of trash.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had it to do over again. To some people that have said the same thing over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that, like I said before, I might be the only guy in America trying to put himself out of business. Because if people stop being killed on bicycles and scooters and stuff, then maybe I've done my job.
That would be amazing.
That would be a good thing. But until that day, would a group like that be advantageous to people that have to go through this? Does that make sense?
Yes, I do. It does. I think, some people have to be ready for that. It's not something that everybody would be ready for immediately, but I think that would be very helpful. There are different, like there are grief share groups that are just for any kind of loss that are helpful to people as well. But yeah, something that you've all been through the same thing would be really helpful to be able to.
I find that from time to time, and some people, most of the people I do, I ask them and I always tell them up front, listen, I'm going to add you to a group.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to respond. If you don't want to be in it, you're more than welcome to let me know to take yourself out of it. I'm just trying to help the situation because I know from talking Barbara Taylor, she called me up about, Paul's been gone since 2012. that was probably about 3 years ago. She called me up, and we talk about once every quarter. We'll message each other or something. How you doing? Or I just saw that her youngest daughter just graduated from Lakeside High School, and I wish Gracie a lot of good luck and going to college and stuff. And the hashtag was remembering Paul. And that's
Sure.
I mean, I sit and cry because I know she graduated and the person that wanted to couldn't be there, and it kills me. I don't like it, but I think that having a group like that sometimes, like I said, I'm very upfront in letting people know that. But anyway, Barbara, I just lost my train of thought. Barbara called me about 2 years ago, and she says, I have something for you. And I said, okay. And I said, well, and she said, well, meet me. There's a coffee shop right up here at the top of the hill. And I said, okay, I'll meet you up there on whatever day. And we met. And she had a bag, like a little gift bag, little thing. And we sat down, and how you doing? And, I'm doing as well as could be expected. And, this is 6 years after his crash. And I'm just like, I don't think I'll ever hear the words, I'm great again or anything. You learn to get through it each day. You learn to get through it. And she pulls out, she goes, somebody gave me this the other day, and it's a painting from Arizona. One of her friends went out to Arizona, and they had, a lot of different artists out there that do paintings and handcrafts and stuff like that. And she goes, and my friend brought me back this painting, and it is just unbelievable, but I can't keep it. She goes, I've had it for 3 weeks, and it's been sitting on my kitchen counter for 3 weeks. I haven't moved it, and it dawned on me what to do with it. And I said, okay. And she pulled it out of the bag, and it's a square silhouette painting, probably about a 5x7, maybe a little bit taller, maybe an 8x10, but maybe not quite that size. But it's one of those silhouette, like a real thick canvas, and it's wrapped around, and it was a bicycle kind of painted on this canvas. And she looked at me and she says, I can't keep it.
No way.
I said, well, hey, I said, I'll take it, I guess. And this will always remember me of Paul. And, and she just said, I just can't keep it. And I just sat there, and it's in my bedroom, with some of the other. My oldest daughter is an art student from Georgia State, graduated from there, and she's done me some nice little, like, you stretch the yarn around around the nails and stuff. She did bike-friendly bike with some nails and yarn one day, and things like that. I keep up there. It's just mementos, but I sit and from day one when Paul got hit, every time I hear of somebody going down, I can't do anything but sink. I don't know why. Don't know if it's my crash that is a semblance or a reminder of that. I don't know. Like I said, and I talk with my fallen friends and God quite often on my bike rides and sitting in this bike-friendly office. I don't know if what you guys go through, families and sons and daughters. Maybe I need to pursue that group just to let people know that it's out there. Maybe put it on the website that here's a group that if you need help, these are people that will listen to you and help you.
Truly understand. Yeah, that's the key, is that they truly know what you're going through.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Anything else? Gosh, I think further, the more it makes me more passionate about trying to stop what I do from a ghost bike standpoint, and how to reach out. I know one of the gentlemen up here that is the attorney at Bike Law, which is a Georgia company right here in Decatur. They represent cyclists and stuff when they have crashes like this. And I mean, we sat and talked with sheriff's departments and things like that. And he's had me come in and talk to him before, about what I do and why I do it. And I try to help both sides of the aisle. I try to get cyclists to be safer.
Mm-hmm.
But the larger part of the onus is on drivers, because they're moving around in that machine that does the most damage to anybody.
Sure. Yeah, the cyclists are not going to hurt the motorists. Always the other way around, like you said.
Even if a cyclist, most cyclists, and honestly, most of them are, probably sub 16, 15 miles an hour. So anytime you're going less than 15 miles an hour, I do this thing, we do it on Cab Avenue every Friday to try to show the politicians that Cab Avenue is a cycling, route into downtown. We only go like 8 to 10 miles an hour. I can tell you honestly, I have trouble staying up at 8 to 10 miles an hour.
Sure. Yeah.
Your balance needs some speed to be able to maintain your balance in your line so that you're not swerving all over the road.
Right.
So I just think that somehow we have to make ways into law enforcement to do a better job, whether that's with technology, whether the video cameras can start being used, whether we start putting up red light sensors, camera red lights to where you run the red light. I guarantee you, if I go right out here on Ponce de Leon, which goes into downtown, and I put every red light as a camera red light, I will guarantee you that the average speed would drop 8 to 10 miles an hour. And the difference in somebody hitting you at 45 versus 30 or 35 is tremendously different.
Yeah.
It's actually survivable.
Right. You have a much better chance of living. Yeah.
That's right. So I just think that that part of it has to be addressed first and foremost. And all the onus is not on the police. It's on each individual to slow themselves down, to stop driving distracted, to stop getting behind the wheel of the car when they're drunk or impaired by drugs.
Right. Yeah, those are the main 3 things, that people can do. Slow down, think of others. It boils down to thinking of others. And if you're thinking of others besides just yourself and where you need to get to, you're going to be more careful. So.
Absolutely. Anything else you ask of me, or any other points of interest we need to go over? I do think God is my drawing straw to do what I do, to try to help those that tragically go down this road. And how much I help them, I don't know. I do what I do as a token to at least show the family and friends that there is somebody else on the planet that is thinking of them. They're not on an island by themselves wondering, what the world do I do?
Right. You don't know how much that means to us, Dave. I mean, when we first saw the ghost bike, it was maybe a few days after the crash, and we were just blown away. Somebody did this for us. They cared enough about us to put this here, for Dad. And then you did the memorial ride for him a couple weeks later. And then each step of the way, you've kept up with us, and you have encouraged us, and you have, you've been there, and you just don't know this side of eternity. You don't know how much you have done to help the families that have gone through this. And I just thank you, from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for everything that you do.
Well, like I said, everything that I do here is, it's just because I do know that there is a part of our society that is just left out on an island to just find a way, and that's not fair. That it should be stopped. It's not fair, for us to take care of drunk drivers and impaired drivers better than we're taking care of these people that did nothing wrong. And for them to go through what they're going through, and our society just go, oh, well, you'll get through it. Time will heal. But we're going to spend all the money and time over here trying to fix somebody that has done it, like you said, 25 times. I'm just like, I think we lost our bearings here, you know.
I feel like we were fortunate because the investigation, I believe, was very thorough in our case, and I think we got really a good outcome as far as the sentencing goes for the man that killed Dad. Some families don't get that, and so I'm thankful for that as well. I pray that he spends all 15 years in prison, you know, because he's obviously a danger to society. But I feel for those families who, you know, their person just got a slap on the wrist for killing their loved one. That's tough. I just can't imagine going through that.
Yeah, I think Paul Taylor's person, they didn't charge him with anything, and he got his third DUI within a year, a month later. So he's still driving.
That is unbelievable.
You just sit and you throw your hands up and you go, okay, who was the judge that keep letting this guy back out? And let's take his license and revoke that bad boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if we got people that won't do their job and won't do it to the utmost of the law, then if we say it's one strike and you're done, okay, one strike, you're done. I'm sorry. If you're an attorney or you're a policeman or you're a politician, it doesn't matter. Your one strike is your one strike. And that's the problem. You know, part of the problem is that, you know, it's a multifaceted problem that we have, but really it's very simple. We have laws, we just not doing them.
Exactly.
And the people that adhere to the law, that, you know, like my wife, we're going down the road and I'm changing lanes, and if she doesn't hear my blinker go on and I change lane, if we're on a long road trip and she's asleep, I don't hit that blinker before I change lane. If she hears that bump, she'll raise them eyes and go, "Are you awake? You know, are you driving?" And I go, "Yes." She goes, "Why are you not using your blinker?" And I go, "We got people doing all kind of stuff, and I can't change the lane without a blinker."
There's probably nobody in sight either. So,
you know, well, honey, there's nobody around me. It don't matter. Use your blinker. I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, that's the way it should be. You know, if you're going to do right, it's not right 90% of the time. It's right all the time, or it's not right. And, you know, my mom used to tell me all the time, boy, don't ride the fence on right and wrong. You're either right or you're wrong. You ain't some right or some wrong. You're right or wrong.
Gray area. That's right.
So that gray area gets a lot of us in trouble. Anything else we need to, like you said, and I echo this from a lot of our fallen friends, family members, is that all you live to do is get through one day at a time, because you never know when and if that, you know, I have it with my brother. I'm sure I'll have it with your dad going down the road sometimes. I'll just sit there, and because I was in Brazelton the other day, because I work in Beaufort, and I went through Brazelton and I went, yeah, I don't like this highway. My buddy was like, why? And I go, well, my boy Dave's bike's down there. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I go, yeah. I just, you know, there are things that don't settle well with me, and I have to keep going and try to make a dent in what we're doing. So, anything else we need to speak about besides, and I would say besides faith in God, but that's the entree on the plate to help you get through it. It
is, absolutely. I don't see how people face anything in this life without God. I really don't. You know, He's the only way that we make it day to day. So, yeah.
Whew. So I read in a couple of your bios, I guess Trevor is, who stopped cycling? Was it Jeremy?
It was Jeremy.
Oh. Well, you know, tell Jeremy that if he wants me to get him a trainer, he can get a trainer.
Okay.
Right. But I have a trainer down in my garage that some days 6 a.m., because I don't get off the court. Like tonight, I won't get off the court until 9. And by the time I get back down here to the house, it's almost 10. 6 a.m. gets pretty darn early.
Yeah.
I'll go sleep deprived a couple of days to kind of get in a couple of the rides that I really like. But a couple of days I'll go, oh, no, 6 a.m.
Too early.
So I'll get up later and go because I don't want to ride in all the traffic. I'll just go out in the garage and get on the bike for about an hour's ride on the trainer because I still enjoy even the bike in the garage. I still enjoy that saddle and getting up and riding, getting that good sweat in on that bicycle. It's good.
Yeah, Dad used to do that when the weather was bad or, he couldn't get out on the road.
Yep. Well, anything else, Michele?
I can't think of anything, Dave. I think we've covered it pretty well.
It's been just a, sadly, it's like I tell people all the time when I see some of my friends pass on and, the one thing I can always say is that it was a pleasure to cross paths with, the people good or whether it's on a good path or a different path. God always makes people cross paths for certain reasons. And
for a reason, that's right.
Sometimes you don't know the reason. Sometimes it's not obvious to start with. Sometimes it may smolder months or years. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's where that had a role. And I wish, in all honesty, that if there was something I could get God to do over, it would be to not let me cross paths with these 70 people that I've crossed with because it ain't a fair path. I can't utter that enough. I'll put it that way. But if there's anything that I can do, for the Fitzpatrick family or, the Thomas family, you let me know. And I will make sure that this feed will be up on my YouTube channel. I will splice it into probably a couple of 3 segments on the podcast so people can listen to little segments along the way, like they're going to work or something. 15 or 20 minutes is what they usually like.
Okay.
And I don't know if you probably can't see it, but behind me, can you see behind me?
I see the book cover behind you.
Okay, I made sure I got out of the way so people can all Through Deep Waters. Michele Fitzpatrick Thomas's chronicled roll down a bad path with her father being taken. Michele, I want to thank you again, girl.
Thank you, Dave.
I can do with you or your family, always let me know. And if I'm ever up that way, I'll make sure I tag you guys in and let you know I'm up that way, and we'll get together and get some grub or something.
Yes, please do.
Absolutely, girl.
Sounds great.
All righty, girl. Well, have a good day, and I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, I got to do it. Not an iPad.